Excellent. Okay, so before we start looking at portfolios, I do have just a couple of intro guidelines. Some of this might be familiar to you. Is someone else actually, can you guys admit just
I got you. I got everything.
Yeah,
okay,
we're
okay.
we're taking care.
You do your thing.
Okay,
You do your.
okay. So just a couple of things before we look at portfolios. Kind of like best practice or just a little advice, some simple guidelines. There we go. I even wrote it into the presentation. All right. Start early. So conveniently, this presentation is also pretty early. We're in mid-January. I have a couple of portfolios from current students who seem to be doing a really great job at keeping their portfolios very, very current. It looks like at the end of every quarter, they're putting that work in a portfolio. That's great just also to have. And then it gives you time and space to think about if you want to redesign or, move things around. But you want to really look at your CV and your resume, get that started, get that drafted, because the next portfolio workshop is when, Travis?
Yeah, I will drop some links. The portfolio workshop's just coming up in a couple of weeks. It's 2 weeks from this Thursday. It's going to be the 29th. That's an evening event. And then the career fair is going for mostly architecture firms. More on this later. Will be February 20th, which is a Friday.
Okay, so on that, at the portfolio workshops, you're really going to be able to bring your portfolios, get feedback, and have a real conversation about what your work is looking like. And so I think it's a great thing for everybody to kind of put a draft together and see if you can get enough eyeballs on it as possible. For international students, you have the OPT application to start thinking about what kind of a date you want to look at putting in as your OPT start date. I think people do all kinds of things. Some people do. I think you can start at 60 days before graduation and 90 days after. I might have more information on that in here. I'm not the expert. I would contact the Dashu Center and find out exactly what that means. And then what I loved doing when I was a student, and maybe I was like a hyper nerd about it, but I was interested in researching like every interesting studio and office and practice, see who's doing what, who might be working there, who's the HR person, or who does one send a portfolio, and then importantly, like, do I know anybody who's at any of these offices? So kind of really starting to build out what it is you're interested in doing and also how you're planning to represent yourself. Okay, so again, regarding the offices. So it's important to not necessarily just send it to info at. So for smaller offices, that's going to be really fine. But for a bigger office, it's helpful then. Of course, now most offices are putting that information on the websites, lists maybe HR office or more job openings, send your portfolios here. That's a great thing to do. But if you know anyone who's working at that particular office or studio, send it also there so that your portfolio can come to the right eyes and the right desk in many different ways possible. So it's really important to think about all the ways you can kind of do that. Ask faculty here, who knows whom at which office. So think of all the kind of degrees of separation of how to get any sort of relationship or access into where you want to be. And that's for grad schools, for some of you might be looking at different kinds of careers. And pursuing other programs and grad programs, starting to really understand what those programs are and who's teaching there, who you might be able to get insight from is always super helpful. OPT, okay, so you need to be employed within 90 days of graduation, and you can set your start date of employment between, I don't know, I think this is mixed up, between 60 days. Does anybody know this? I have not forgotten it, and this sentence is oddly worded. Anyway, I would recommend contacting the Dashu Center, but I do know that you must be employed within 60 or 90 days. I believe it's 90 days after graduation. The application time, I do know from student experience, it does take time to process once it's submitted. There's also a typo, please disregard. And so you graduate around the 10th of June. So keep that date in mind. Usually students are heading to the Dashu Center to begin to submit the OPT application around April. And so starting to get that information early so you know exactly what you want to do is going to be super helpful and crucial. So we're getting to the bones of what we're doing today in the portfolio. Obviously, make it gorgeous. Put your best work first. Some people advise to put your best project first and your second best project last. We'll go through ideas on what to do as we go through all these portfolios. I think keep all the awesome stuff at the kind of front of the portfolio, and yes, finish with a strong image, but I wouldn't, I don't know, I wouldn't weight the portfolio too back heavy. Customize it. This relates to students who might be interested in pursuing different kind of practice, or some people who are interested in cross-disciplinary, or some who are thinking about applying to architectural practices, but also maybe looking at technology or media or graphic design. Each of those kind of avenues require a different type of portfolio or a different sequencing of work. And so that's really important to keep in mind. When I was graduating, I had probably about 4 or 5 different kinds of portfolios, also just customized to the different offices that I was interested at that time, like pure architecture. And I was just moving projects around to think about how to align to the office I was looking at applying to. So big highlights. I think we've all seen portfolios that have lots and lots of little diagrams on a page. Also take a break, give us a big spread of amazing image or model photograph, all of that. It gives a kind of diversity to the portfolio. Web and showreel, it's more and more common for students also to have a website. For MSAUD students, it does help also to have a show reel, because you can send your portfolio as a PDF and then have a kind of video reel. That is, of course, up to you. I think most students do send mostly the PDF, and that's the kind of more common practice. A lot of people put the portfolio in issue. I have one on here today that's uploaded on Archinect, and I will say that seems to be a cleaner way to go. I just saw it today because there's many fewer advertisements all around. I don't know if there's a cost associated to that. And then if you're making a show reel, like really think about the music. Okay, timing. So when to send portfolios? Monday, everybody's catching up on what's new over the weekend. So it's not a great time to send. If you're emailing it, have it arrive between a Tuesday or a Thursday, have it arrive in the morning. A lot of people just look at portfolio submissions in the morning and might not review it again in the afternoon. And then follow up 1 to 2 weeks later. Oh, I sent you my portfolio, looking to hear back. And then continue to follow up. Don't expect them to reach out to you. It's really important to kind of put yourself back up to the top of the inbox and remind people that you've sent their work, that you've sent them your work. It may have gotten lost in the inbox. I think that might be it. Okay, and then do that all over again. Look at your offices, kind of rejig your portfolio, and then send all of that out. Okay. So I'm going to close that. One tab closed. We'll do CVs later. Hunter Blackwell, we're starting with you, and I see you are in Zoom. I saw your name. I don't know. Oh, you are there. Hello. Okay, so let me find my notes document. So Hunter, as I understand, because I got these portfolios from you through a request from Mohammed, this was your portfolio as listed here for applying to the MArch program. And I would imagine there's some undergrad students here in the Zoom. If anybody wants to say yay or nay. Okay, we're all still shy. And thank you, Albert, for putting the OPT information in the chat. Okay. I thought this was a great one to start with. I love, personally, that it's 10 pages. It's compact. Why is my down button not working? Do you want to talk about what you did before you applied to the MArch program?
Yeah, can you hear my mic?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, so I did an undergrad BFA and I studied glass, like glass blowing at Rhode Island School of Design.
That's okay.
So this is an art portfolio. It includes like technical craft work. Like this is showing like, hand skill craftsmanship, but there's also more kind of like sculpture, conceptual work. And my friends and I started an inflatables company. So this is that work.
I was wondering if this was still in school or if this was after.
Yeah, it kind of bridged school.
Yeah.
We were working on it during our senior year, but then we needed insurance to do some of these projects, so we started a company. But this was all handmade.
Yeah, they're really beautiful. I mean, I think so if they're undergrads in here, I always get the question like, oh, I don't have, I mean, you had your undergrad degree, but for the undergrads at UCLA, we've got, I don't know how many do they have to take, 5 studios, I believe, over the course of junior and senior year, maybe. I might not have this right. But I've had the question of like how I don't have that many projects. I don't have a 40-page portfolio. I think you can do a really beautiful, really elegant, really communicative portfolio in a super concise 10 pages. I think this like delivers a really beautiful series of imagery on craft, on making. It's incredibly spatial. It's really material. The photographs are excellent. Kind of interesting set of different kinds of work, from the smaller glass works to a larger installations to the inflatable structures. I don't know what this is, but I was really intrigued by it.
Oh, yeah, it's a rotating living room.
Here's the table. There we go.
Yeah.
It's hard to get the sense of the scale on it. And so, I think this kind of a portfolio is a really great piece of work to apply to a master's program. It shows great range of work. And like really beautiful material and spatial projects. So I really appreciated that you shared it with us and that you're happy sharing it with the group. Do you have any like comments on the process of like applying with this portfolio to UCLA and to other programs,
Yeah.
or like the thinking behind the making of it?
It's funny. I was actually really nervous applying to UCLA because most other MR programs have a tab that they kind of include multimedia work, and UCLA didn't explicitly say anything in its application that that was included, and so I was kind of not sure where this was going to land. Um, but like for example, the last slide was a video piece. So when I usually present that work, I submit a video with that,
Mhm.
or a link to a video like Vimeo. Um,
And with this
yeah.
application, you weren't able to do that.
No, this was just kind of a like, I'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Okay, I'm going to start closing these so my computer can breathe. Emily Salt, who I know is also here. Are you both in the same year in that case? You both applied in
Yeah.
2023?
Mhm.
Okay, I looked at this like 4 hours ago, so I'm not quite remembering all of it. Okay, now I got it. And so where did you do your undergrad, if I can ask?
Yeah. I was here at UCLA,
Okay.
and I took like
Okay,
a year
so
off.
okay, so this is an undergrad UCLA portfolio primarily. I wasn't 100%
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
Okay, great. And so for other undergrads in here, I think this is also a really great example of an undergraduate portfolio. I like the way the book itself or the PDF itself is kind of designed like with website graphics. Like we know I'm in the academic tab versus when I'm in the professional tab. It lists the projects that are in the portfolio. We've got big, large imagery. We're not trying to kind of cram the page with a lot of information. I think the drawings really pretty, have great space on the page. So I'm going to flip through, generally, I'm going to kind of be flipping through portfolios. If anybody has a question, or Emily, if you have a comment and would be happy to share, that'd be great. I think of like a portfolio, let's say a project page start is always really helpful. With some portfolios we might see later, we're ending project on one side of a spread and then beginning and on the other, and that can be sometimes confusing. I think just having like a clear title, what is this, a little bit of a caption, and a lead image for a project start is super, super helpful. So that kind of leads us into this where we get the description page. I've not seen that before, where you have the prompt for the project and then your response. That's a nice way to do it. I think for people, and we'll see this a lot in portfolios today, people who are looking through portfolios probably aren't going to read. So that's just something to think about. If you're crafting the text for your portfolio, I would say you don't have to worry too much about generating new text. If it's text you already have, that's fine, then use it. I think this sort of thing is really helpful. Note the sections I focus on are highlighted by color. So where she's clarifying your contribution to what would be a group project, that's right. Which I think is, yeah, a really great way to think about it. It's also a kind of technique I've not seen anybody do before, so I quite like how that's being done. Again, we have the kind of chapter break, and we have the next project. It's a pretty photo. And the imagery and the drawing, really punchy, super clear. The drawings are very beautiful. We're giving space to everything. We have like white around the frame and the edges so that it's not feeling hyper dense. If you do have video, what you can do in PDFs also is include a link. Now you can have clickable links, or you can include the QR code. The QR code would require someone to then take the phone and use the code. And now that you can include clickable links in PDFs, that might be easier. So I could then click a link here and then load it into a browser for people who are looking at them on computers. And then I think what's useful here is also the kind of range of media, the different forms of drawing, the different forms of imagery, and then also highlighting kind of model work. And I do love when you have a nice drawing and you kind of give it space on the page, and we'll see plenty of that in the portfolios. Okay, so generally they're really well organized. The images have space to breathe. We get lots of detailed information in the portfolios. And again, short, sharp, and clean. I'm going to maybe jump around a little bit so we can do an MArch portfolio. Or maybe I'll do Pearson Brown first. So this was, I think this studio, oh yeah. So this student was, I don't know if you're here, this student did the part one or the kind of equivalent of the undergrad in the UK. And I would say this does have more a quality of a sort of UK-ish portfolio where it's a little more maybe not classic. I don't know. I taught in England for many years, and I think this is much more of a kind of UK-ish portfolio where it's a little bit more understated. Generally not using like massive super graphics. It's very elegant. So this is where they were doing an internship at Foster or working as a part one student, which is working after your undergraduate. Again, kind of being very clear between with what this person was working on in the office and in these kinds of drawings. So kind of acknowledging your role within a collective project, whether that's a collective student project or a collective project within your professional experience. So this was the thesis project in the undergrad. I think the photograph and the sketch, like when you think about designing a portfolio, there are ways of kind of a couple of ways of doing it. One is you design it as a kind of presentation of work in the sort of classic portfolio format. Here, it also feels like it's a little bit like a booklet, starting to really present the ideas as well as the imagery and thinking through different kind of forms of media and how we can represent that. The super elegant drawings, really clear presentation of work and imagery. I think this exploded AXO, we're going to see some other drawings on the page where if you're not careful with how you export in Illustrator, the line work starts to get really fuzzy. So experiment with your PDF, open it up on different kinds of screens and ensure the line work works. If you're interested in doing white line work on black background, definitely test it multiple times, and you probably need to bring that image into Photoshop and adjust the contrast to brighten the white, and then re-export. Again, here we're looking at different kinds of detail. I think that kind of overlap of imagery onto the line drawing is really beautiful. Kind of operates as a sort of book chapter or monograph chapter more than a portfolio. I don't know if it's my computer or if the PDF, if the content in the PDF is too large or larger than necessary. So that's also something to think about when you're building these, presumably in InDesign. I don't know if people use Canva at the moment. Really ensure that all of your images or drawings are sized appropriately for the PDF. Although you don't want to bring a 50 gig image into your PDF. Likewise, you don't want to bring a 50 gig Illustrator drawing into the PDF. It will just make it enormous and too hard to load. This is most likely my computer because it loaded fine earlier today. Again, giving space, like everything is really legible. It's super clear. The images are photoshopped so that the lighting quality and the kind of contrast is super clear. Again, the drawing is really elegant, beautiful. As a portfolio layout, it's kind of consistently clear. And there's always a kind of small caption that gives us an indication into what we're looking at if we're interested in reading. A lot of people looking at these portfolios are going to be looking at when it was produced, whether it's a student work, if there were collaborators, and then going straight to imagery. Today, I read a lot of your portfolios. I read a lot of the portfolios that I was looking at and bringing up and preparing for you, but that's pretty uncommon. I think it's a different situation if you're applying for an MArch or applying for a further degree. Certainly in that kind of a context, we're really kind of diving into the works and the essay, but for professional kind of portfolio review, it's much faster. The one thing I would say in the CV early at the beginning of this document, which I believe is page 2. Nope, and it's page 3. This person won a scholarship and other awards. And I think that would be really important to highlight. While it is elegant and understated, I think a little bold would go far to just really highlight all the accomplishments. Because this was then a funded exhibition. And I think those kinds of awards are really important to highlight in the foreground. Okay, I'm going to close this one. Okay, so now we'll move over to Chris Rancourt. I'm going to come back to some of the undergrad ones later on. Chris Rancourt graduated in 2023. I don't believe he's teaching at AUD this year, is he, Travis? Do you know? No.
No, but he's been a lecturer here for on and off for a few years.
Exactly. And so he worked for many years prior to coming to UCLA. And this is the portfolio he completed upon graduation. He applied to Michael Molson Architecture with this portfolio and has been working there since. So we have the CV. Oh, let me just. Okay, trying to get the right zoom here. Let's go fit to Mandel. It's not like the full screen. Okay, fine. Okay, so this isn't the CV that he would have as a kind of submitted CV, but it's a CV that sits at the front of his portfolio. It highlights his education, it highlights his experience. I think it's super legible. It has the offices he's worked at, a little bit of what his role was at the studios, the projects we're going to see in the portfolio, and the degrees. Really clear, great kind of index front page. And then we go through the student work. He has a lot of text. So Chris does have a lot of text. I don't think anybody will ever read it, but it looks graphically quite pretty. So if you want your text, because you need that sort of graphic quality to it, please ensure that it is clear and good text. If you're GPTing it, I would advise not to, but if you're GPTing it, I would remove all evidence of that. Get rid of all your hyphenations, ask it not to do the lazy GPT writing, which is very, very obvious as a person who's looking at admissions portfolios, etc. I would just be very careful with the text that you're putting on the page. Again, here, he's also using one font, but a few different conditions of the font. We've got bold, we've got one size for the title, we've got one size for the kind of highlight info. We've got the other size for the body text, and then the same font italicized and smaller for the captions. It's a pretty good rule. I don't think you need to fuss with more than one or two fonts. Some people might do title and highlight info with a sans serif and then do body text with serif or reversed, whatever. But definitely don't go font crazy. It's just distracting and highly not recommended. Again, what's great about the portfolio, big images, big drawings. It looks great. He's also putting it together, kind of thinking it through as a book. So it's designed probably in InDesign as a book spread as opposed to as a single page. And so that's something you can do if you feel like you want to print it as a brochure at some point or as a booklet. Design it in InDesign, but always ensure that you're exporting as spreads, but design it as a spread so that this is kind of like a slide. This portfolio is also designed exactly to my screen proportion, as highly recommended, because just about everybody will be looking at your portfolios on a computer screen or a laptop screen. So I would recommend doing it at that ratio. And then you have no dead space. We'll be looking at super long portfolios and maybe one portrait one. So this one is just like the line weight on this thing is perfect. It's clear. It's exported so well. It's, if you're going to do a drawing, like really spend time. If you're giving it a big page and if it's worthy of the page, and you will have many of those, really spend time to get that line weight just like perfect, right? That's going to make all the difference between having it look like a portfolio where you didn't spend time exporting it correctly and the quality is kind of crappy to just looking pristine, because that kind of ability to also represent yourself and use your work, represent your work, is something that's going to be made very clear in how you export your PDF and how we can look at it. So again, the model photograph, this looks like it was taken in the double height space, so the lighting was probably okay, but always adjust your photographs because probably they're going to be bluish or probably they're going to be yellowish straight out of the camera. So get that white balance, adjust the levels, make it look good. The drawings also like this, these are just pristine and really taken care of. Again, we have our front page, a lot of text. I don't think you need it, but it looks good, right? This model has also been exhibited in numerous places, so he could probably also say exhibited at, here and here and here. Again, the plans, the drawings are pristine, the line weight's perfect, and it makes everything just so much more legible, so clear. This moment, giving a break in a portfolio and just having a full bleed drawing or a full bleed image, really, really important to give that pacing to your portfolio. And then we can go right after that and we can go into the details. So we had like a really great section perspective. Now we have AXA, we have a little chunk model detail, we have, here's the steel structure breakdown, here's the surfacing and facade, and it's all just about the materials on this page. Great. We got themes per page, climate strategies, facade, material, again, continuing that narrative. And then another project. This one has also been exhibited. So here we have a little less text. I'm still not going to read it because for me, the font is too small for this kind of a format on my screen, which is a big screen. I would still have to kind of lean in. So very few people will do that for a professional application. Again, for an academic application, that'll be a different story. We'll pay more attention and really like look at the work and look at the kind of text. But for a job application, like nobody's ever going to read this. But this was also, I think this was Comprehensive Studio. And so a lot of it is really described in text in this one. I would foreground image over text, but the images are also awesome. Again, super clear. It's really clean. The images have been photoshopped and like adjusted. The lighting, these ones were probably taken with a different camera. These ones are awesome, right? So that also matters. Adjust your imagery. Here we have a great drawing. Love the deep shadow, also very LA, very LA influenced. Still a lot of text, but it looks great in the layout, so we're fine with it. Beautiful model photo. I don't know what the diagrams are on the bottom, but they give good texture. I'm probably not going to like lean in to look at them. but the model is enough. And then we have some descriptive work around the project. Does anybody have any questions? I think here he probably could have done, and you can interrupt me if you do. Here we have all the 4 sections that he would have produced in this studio. I would probably pick 2. Maybe the top elevation and one of the sections, because 4 feels like too much, and I'm not sure we're really kind of getting more information from all 3. And then I think this is the last project. So this is also out of sequence. The previous project was 2021. This is 2022. I don't know why, but maybe he's sequencing the work in the order of preference. Like he just likes certain projects better. This was his final project. This was the research studio, which was amazing. So I would probably put this in the foreground, but he was also applying to Michael Maltz in architecture. So he also put a very building-y project at the start. So I don't know. But this was amazing, and I'm surprised it's so late, but it was also a kind of project that's really difficult to document because it was made of 1 million little pieces of media, and probably would have its own separate book. But it was really an incredible project. And then we have all the QR codes, which we could also do as PDF links, bringing us into other forms of media for the project. Anybody have any questions? I'm going to actually pause. You can chat or unmute. Okay, this doesn't have a conclusion page. It just ends. That's fine. Some people do a little resume at the end, a thanks for your consideration. I think it's also fine to just end. You can see with the slowness of my undoing of the full screen. Computer is struggling. Okay, close that. Okay, so that was a graduate of the MArch. Josh Nelson, let me look at my notes. Josh Nelson graduated in 2018, and we have the CV as well as the portfolio. So the CV in this case is the first page of the portfolio. That is an option. Gives us very, very clearly, I think graphically, this thing is just super clean, super clear. We have references over here and the names, skills, etc., exhibitions, where the work has been exhibited. If you have recognition or highlights, then those are really excellent to also put on the CV. So this is a great way to, I think, organize a CV if you've not had tons and tons of experience. It's a full page, but it also has a lot of space and it's incredibly clear and legible. I'm a big fan of legibility, so that will be definitely what I'll be talking about generally or looking at. Okay, so we get into the portfolio. We have, yeah, this one's broken up in academic and professional work. Again, this is from 2018. Even earlier today, it did take a long time to load. So I'm guessing the imagery and the files are really, really dense in this PDF, and it's probably a large file. But the text, like the drawings and the text did not export terribly well. So I want to reiterate, please focus on that because it's frustrating. And it also just kind of communicates a lack of care if your imagery doesn't load as crisply as it should. So this one you can see is a little muddy. But the portfolio itself, like the layout, and maybe I just have a bad copy, the layout is super clean, super clear. He starts always, if we look at the beginning of a project, we have the project intro page with the title, little detail, big image, drawing, like really kind of giving the work some space. We have the details page and a little bit of a axo, and then the kind of sections start to fill the page. So I think it's a very beautiful, short, sharp presentation of a project. Again, always that same kind of format for the starter page. This one does not have a lot of text. It has about the right amount. Slab on grade extension to Anahuacalli Museum in Mexico City. And then we have a little bit of description. I don't even believe we have that many. We don't have much caption and image captions either. We have site plan, first floor plan. So it's really concise with language. That's okay. and hear a little bit of kind of the classic sort of museum floor plan that gives us a bit of an indication. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Throw it in the chat, unmute. Do you want me to go faster, slower? I can do both. I can go as quickly as my computer allows. Anyway, okay, you let me know. Travis, comments? How's my speed? Should I keep going?
I was just going to say you're doing great.
Okay. Okay, again, I love, what?
May I jump in with one question?
Go crazy.
For instance, not next week, the week after for the portfolio workshop, it's a very practical question, but also a very conceptual one. Would you recommend folks bring a tablet, a laptop, a printout, and whether you're starting to put your portfolio together or putting finishing touches on it, how would you suggest that question of format weigh in? Again, especially given a lot of these image and project selection decisions kind of hinge on that.
Well, format, I think you just got to do the format of the screen. So if it's on your iPad or if it's on your laptop, it's going to be the same proportion unless you have a wide format laptop. I mean, Liam Denheimer has a wide screen that's like this wide that's on a curve. I would use the proportion of the screen. And I don't see much value in doing anything other than that proportion, unless you have always done all of your project imagery as squares, then fine, then do your layout and your portfolio as a square because there's a real theme. And certainly there are faculty who, or at least in previous places where I've taught, where all media had to be like square output, all students, all drawings, everything's square. Okay, fine. Then your portfolio really should be a square because otherwise it'll look slightly odd. But in terms of format, that's what I would do. I don't think you need to print it for the portfolio workshop. But I would, bring the laptop, bring the screen, put your brightness up. If you have model photographs, start to pull all of those together, take an hour or 20 minutes in Photoshop and adjust all of that imagery so you can put it in the portfolio, or at least you have folders ready. You can also go on Pinterest or Arena or Cosmos. Is it Cosmo or Cosmos? And start to look at like graphic examples of portfolios that you like. And for the workshop, you might say like, this is the work I've done. It's not in any sequence. Do you have any kind of idea on which project would be best first? Like maybe those are questions like, how do I prioritize work? How do I define a sequence? And also I would say, because it's going to be an in-person, I would just be really open. Everybody here in this screen, like you can also just review each other's portfolios and try to be gentle and try to be constructive and give good feedback, right? Is it legible? Like plenty of people love a dense portfolio. My preference is a more open one. But if it is a dense portfolio, as long as it's legible, great, but just like really, I would say use the opportunity not only to get feedback from faculty, but from each other. You've all done beautiful portfolios to apply to this place. So thinking about how you reorganize that portfolio and incorporate new work is also like a collective project that you're all doing. Brent, any recommendations? Huh?
Natasha, if I can just emphasize one point that Natasha made that I think is super important for, beyond the portfolio, little things like whether you can put consideration into line weights and how things read for different people does go so much in terms of showing how you treat every project. Like those little things reflect how you, or whether intentionally or not, demonstrate and illustrate to hiring folks how you take everything, how you treat everything. Doesn't mean necessarily that everything needs to be super customized to everything, but people do notice, like, did they take the care to adjust this for whether...
Oh yeah, I would care, like for sure. And this one was probably, so Brant has just asked a very good question in the chat. Any recommendations for how to get portfolios down to 5, 10, 20 meg firm requirements without compromising quality? Now 5 megs, that might be a bit of a challenge, but the first thing is, okay, if your InDesign page is, let's say you're doing 11 by 17 or you're doing 9 by 16. If your page is 16, then in Photoshop, don't make the image larger than 16 inches. And you probably don't need it at 300 dpi. I would say it's going to be seen on screen. Save the image down to 200 dpi. If it's, let's say it's a huge full page image and let's say the file is ginormous. So make it 16 inches wide, put it at 200 dpi, put it in the document, export it, see what it looks like. See if you can drop it down to 100 DPI. I mean, I've done entire portfolios at 100 DPI, and if you're looking at it on a screen, it's perfection. Like, it's fine because it's sized correctly. If you're in InDesign, I don't know how many people know this because I've seen students do portfolios and still, like, if the image is 4 inches by 6 inches and you're stretching it to 5 by 7, it will get all anti-aliased. It will get jagged. If your frame is 5 by 7, resize the image in Photoshop first. So your image size should match what it's going into. If your portfolio is like really huge drawings, you're going to have to size them down first. So if you're piling huge files into your PDF will be large, most likely. So it's really about sizing everything down first. So you have your original work, make a separate folder called portfolio, put all of your work in there, then call edited, then have a folder called edited for size for portfolio, and use that into your InDesign. That's really the only way. And then so a lot of the portfolios we've been looking at are 34 pages, which is about like the good mark. We had Hunters at the beginning of 10 pages, perfect. And we have a couple of other short ones as well. If it's super long, whack some pages off the end. Like, if you're, just make it super essential. That's what I would do. So those, you're going to be editing your imagery before you load it into your InDesign, and then you're probably going to have to, if it's still large, just be selective and chop some projects out. Okay, continuing on with Josh Nelson from 2018. Again, we have, I don't know, I love a clean title page with a little like logo image, and then we have our drawings. He had really good drawings, even though the line weight's kind of garbage, so we can't really tell. This one's great. So it is the document. So this file is super legible. The line weight is really clear. And here it's not. So it is an issue of the export, and it is an issue of preparing the drawings beforehand. So here, bad export, good export. And it does matter. And people really do pay attention to that for sure. I think the imagery here has also been kind of compressed because the image is not exactly super high res looking. So yeah, just take care of all of that. But I think in general, it's a good, clean, clear portfolio. It's got some great drawings in it. Even better when they are well exported. So this one's not great, but it would be looking great if we had all the line weight and resolution in. So again, this is a pretty common, like, I would say, UCLA sort of layout and aesthetic. We have the nice drawing, we have the nice model photograph. It's kind of like one thing per page. Other schools kind of have different sorts of trends. I do think this is a good, clean, clear one. And then the professional work, so we can get a look at what that looks like. I don't think we've seen too many yet with professional work. So this was 2017, working with Kevin Daly. And I think in each of these, doesn't really say, contrary to some other portfolios where students say what their specific contributions are within the project. And if it's at an office, pardon?
Yeah, is in there, I think, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of. I prefer a little more description.
Well, yeah, at that point, what would work there? Because actually, not to interject, but there's a few students here who I've worked with in terms of some of their competition portfolios where we have emphasized with group projects or a team project, make legible what your contribution was.
I mean, with student work and with competition work, I guess it doesn't, for me, as long as everybody's credited, I think that's super important. I more think with professional work, because these are projects that are often built, like, at what phase were you working with this office and studio, and what was your contribution? Were you a model maker? Were you developing the landscaping? Just one quick sentence about what you were working on within this project in the office. But certainly, like, as students working collectively on projects and on competitions, particularly if you're applying to grad school, for the undergrads applying to that March, I've had many instances where I see the same projects coming in from 2 different portfolios. So then I'm like, is this plagiarism, or are they working together? And then one person might have credited the entire team and one might not. And I find that really problematic. So yes, credit everybody. Okay, this one, Dylan Hart. Dylan Hart graduated in 2023. It's a really nice book and portfolio. I'm going to tell you one thing that I don't like about it, or you can guess. Okay, good resume, super clean, clear. The font's a little small, but it's really clean and clear. So that for me is priority. Contents page, again, it couldn't be more legible. It's really good. We have big title, a chunk of text. It adds more like graphic vibes more than information I'm actually going to read. But it does list, I don't know if they were collaborators, potentially not. Can anybody guess what I don't like? It appears on every single page. It's the shade down the middle. An unnecessary kind of graphic thing that I think obscures, in many cases, excellent work. Like the portfolio is good. Why do this? For me, don't love it. Again, if you're thinking like, should I add this like little graphic doodad or not? Just opt not. Any graphic fussiness really tends to interfere. If you're going to do huge page numbers, because I don't think I have one of those today, but I used to have one where the page number, can you see my mouse? Travis, can you see my mouse? Like here? Yeah, this would be like page 31, and it was huge. And that acted like the most important information in the portfolio, right? So I think the portfolio is really good, super clear. I love the project introduction. It's blam, big image, text, title, pertinent information, what year, what studio, where it is, and what it is. Really minimal. Again, nobody's going to read the text. Maybe some people will read the text. But it adds, in this case, texture. The drawings are exported really, really well. This shady thing in the middle is killing it. But other than that, it's all really communicative, right? We understand the projects, we understand the scale. Great drawing to start a project with. But you see the repetition of the portfolio is somehow, it's a really good thing because as a viewer, we know what to expect. If every project is laid out very, very differently, it's sometimes very difficult to know when a new project appears. I've certainly had that before, looking at portfolios where you think you're like really clued into what's going on, and then all of a sudden you realize you're in a different project. Again, if you see with this gray stripe, not to bang on, but I'm going to bang on, like, come on, right in the middle of this model photograph, it's so good. Anyway, like, how awesome is this? It's pretty good. I will say this text is misaligned because if we look at the previous project, I just noticed it, I might be wrong. Nope. Always make sure that your text, like have guidelines in your InDesign file, so the text will always start here. I would imagine probably, let me just see. Let's just see. Not to be a nerd about it, but oh, this is slightly lower. So I think there were no guides. Just put a guide. Drop a little guide down from the top of the page from the ruler, and just ensure that your text always starts in the same spot. It could be in the next project that it was started a little bit higher because there's more text. Nope. And it's also spaced differently. So this is just a different kind of text style. Keep it really consistent. It is noticeable. It's not super vital. But again, just like going through your portfolio repeatedly to catch discrepancies. I think the spacing here might also be slightly different. But definitely this is different. Different line spacing and location on the page. Again, really fussy, but I like to be fussy. But like the work itself is hyperlegible. Anybody like it? Do we like this? I like it. It's good. All the portfolios are, that I'm showing today all have like very unique qualities. They all have different kind of vibes and way of communicating work, but they all are generally pretty clear. Any comments, questions? Okay, then I will just continue clicking through on this one. So I feel like because, I don't know, the work is so large on the page, I would probably also be good to end the portfolio here at page 23. I feel like I've seen enough that I really understand the student or graduate has good solid skills, really knows how to draw, has a good understanding of architectural making and thinking. I mean, it's great to have the additional projects, I think here we're in tech seminar, looks like. But also don't feel like you need to have a super long portfolio. This is pretty for difference. But again, here, when I was talking about white drawings on a black background, they will drown. And if you're printing, the black ink will just bleed right over the white. So I don't recommend. You're probably not going to be printing, so it doesn't really matter. But again, even on the screen, it's very hard to read. So really work on that legibility. Export multiple times, really check on different screens. It's pretty. It's very different vibes from the rest of the portfolio. This is low res right here, so I probably would either delete it or refine it. Image quality is good. Let's see, Bitscape, what is this? Seminar with Nathan. So the images here are very pretty. Is anybody agreeing with me about this gray stripe down the middle? Okay, so that's the portfolio. Okay, now we're going to look at Morgan Kopp. Is she teaching this year? I don't think she is.
I think she's maybe a quarter or two, but not all year.
Okay. Morgan graduated in, let me check my notes. Morgan.
2023.
Did you really?
Yeah, she got the Perloff medal.
No, 22.
Oh, sorry. It's right there.
Oh, is it? Oh, I have it in my notes. Okay, so she did her bachelor's in Nottingham in 2016. And then she worked, I think, for 4 years at Herzog de Meuron or Herzog de Meuron. And then she came to do the MArch here. She was fabulous. Did her projects were really, really beautiful. Again, this is a CV. The first page, she has a 2-page CV. She has education, honors, the professional experience. She's been working with Coutan since graduating. She worked with Sharif Lynch, Koenig Eisenberg, Rob Quigley, Herzog de Meuron. Oh, it says only 2 years. But anyway, she's quite a lot of work experience, and then also has been teaching a fair bit since graduation and prior, and has all of that separately as another. I can only show her academic. So she has 3 portfolios. She has an academic portfolio. She has a professional work portfolio, but she said, I can't show any of that because some of the projects are under NDA. I don't know why she sent it to me. It's gorgeous. I wish I could show it. And then she has also a teaching portfolio. So this is her academic work. This was, I don't know, this was her comprehensive studio project, I think.
So it was Coutan.
This was the research studio.
Coutan year-long.
Advanced. Yeah.
Future history.
Exactly. Really beautiful. She and the teammate kind of like worked through all forms of media, made crazy awesome imagery, really beautiful drawings, a great model. Like they really kind of covered all the bases. And I think the way that she has the portfolio kind of expressing that or communicating that is super successful. Again, like big images. They created these beautiful renders. Why not give them all this breathing page? I will say, and you will note that here it's exported as spreads, so it's a wide portfolio. So look, if you can see my mouse, like up here and down here, so much dead space, right? So much dead space if I'm looking at this on a monitor, which I will be doing. So that's, again, in terms of thinking about your format, like so much dead space. You want to fill the screen, just make it yours. Having said that, it's great. So here's some of the research and initial studies. We have the beautiful unrolled section of the project. Again, great drawings, like why try to put this in a small thing on a page? Just take the spreads, right? Just really kind of blow it up and make it a huge drawing that we can kind of lean into or that we want to lean into because it's so interesting, right? So they're giving the work the space. These are the model photographs, which also look very much like the renders. Yeah, the one on the right looks like a render, but it's not, it's the model photograph. And so this model is still in Perloff somewhere in the basement. It doesn't look quite as good as it did here, but these are renders. Boy, it's really confusing. Anyway, it doesn't matter because we all get the texture. But I think what's, again, the highlight of the project. Here, again, other model photographs of the whole thing as opposed to some of the interior views. It's really just like giving space to a project. This is pretty unusual to be 15 pages in, which in this case it's 15 spreads in. We're on page 29, and still be on the first project. That's pretty unusual to give so much time and place to it. But in that case, like each page, we were kind of looking at something different and getting different sort of form of media and skills. So I think it works. So we'll just click through to the end. Any comments? No? Helpful, not helpful? Do you want me to talk about something specific? Again, she's also like picked just a, what is this, Arial? I think so. No comments? Okay, then I keep going. Okay, this next one is probably one of the oldest portfolios I have. Michael. Yeah, he graduated in 2018. Okay, my notes on this one were to put the second more sophisticated project to start off the portfolio. Let's see. Okay, CV. It's clear. I think there are others that are like slightly more designy and pretty, but it's super clear. We have 3 projects we're going to be looking at. Oh, I know why. I do love this project. This is a really pretty house project, but the next one is awesome drawings. I don't know. He's showing 3 projects. They can go in any sequence because I do think we would click through all of these. Again, the kind of classic UCLA format. We have the title, we have our highlight details, and then we have the text. Don't feel obliged to put so many, but on the other hand, it does like give weight to a spread to have it on one side. And then he has the drawings, which are exported beautifully. The line quality is excellent. Like really, this is a really pretty portfolio. Like Morgan's, like great drawings, great models, great images. And this one, yeah, I think this also fits as a second project, but I do think this one is the best project. Like this drawing, give me a break. It's so good, right? These drawings are clean, clear, beautifully exported. Look at this line work and the shadow. Give me a break. It's so good, right? If it were printed, and I kind of demonstrated this with students yesterday, if you're printing your portfolio, if someone's looking at it, or like, let's say 15 years ago, looking at a portfolio, it would go like this. You would do it just about this quickly. And you would find a page you like and be like, ooh. And then maybe you would flip again to see if you missed anything. So these days with the PDF, we're clicking through page by page. So it is important to kind of really get this amazing work up front. In his case, it's early enough in the portfolio that we do get to see it. It's a 21-page long portfolio. Honestly, it's enough. It's really great. Any thoughts? Okay. I'm going to.
I do have a quick question.
Yes.
Earlier, it was kind of asked if like we should bring some sort of tablet, like if we're presenting our portfolio like in person. Is it recommended to still like have physical copies to hand out, or like just one to present in the physical setting?
In the workshop?
No, not for like, I mean, maybe for the workshop as well, but also when like for the job fair, when you're talking to firms to have it physically, or do firms not really care to see it physically anymore?
Honestly, I don't know. I think people love holding a thing. Nobody's expecting you to send them out, and I don't think anybody would look at them if you were sending them out physically. But once you get to the interview, if the work is like really beautifully produced as a book, or you might be able to do both. I mean, I saw students who graduated from MR, whose name is escaping me right now, who had a really beautiful book for the final project, and then had a PDF portfolio as well, where excerpts of this project were highlighted in the portfolio. But they also came with this like booklet, which just had the whole project comprehensively in it, which just becomes this great thing you flip through and you can look at. I think the more kind of variety you can bring to that moment, great. I think most people are expecting to look at it on screens or on a iPad or plug into a TV. I mean, I love the thing you flip through, but I don't think it's required at all. And you might for the book fair, just because you can also, if there are two people at a desk, you can show one person the screen and the other person's booklet. But I wouldn't go too crazy spending that much money on it for this.
Natasha, to reiterate a point you made earlier, there's a little bit to be had here in terms of researching your audience, so to speak, or researching the office. It won't be immediately legible, obviously, on a website, but trying to figure out, does the principal, does this hiring manager, are they a print person? Are they, it's not generational per se, but are they someone who does want the book? Are they someone who does want the print matter, or vice versa? And similarly, like, I won't name names, but I know there's certain principals and folks who just don't check email and they don't read email. So therefore information has to get to them in a different format. It's not worth like, really pulling your hair out about, but there is something to be said there about research in the office, how they work, how their media, how they work with media, and whether or not that might influence how you format it.
Thank you.
Trying to get this, my computer is freaking out. Okay, there we go. It's responding. Okay, it's zoomed out too much. Okay, so this was by an MSAUD student, Kanambari. She graduated last year. I also have her website somewhere. And we can kind of move over and do a couple of websites and then go back. So her portfolio also hits this magic number of 32. We've seen so many today that are 32 or 34 pages. Let's go through it. For me, this is a little fussy, but like you've heard me say the words clean and clear like 1,700 times today. So that should be obvious. The export is also not amazing. The text is not crisp. I see a lot of fuzzy background. I don't know if that extends to the portfolio, but this page is not beautifully exported. So like, I don't know, should I read this quote? Should I read all this? Like, what are these lines doing? Do I have to pay attention to this side or do I pay attention to this side? It's not super clear, just in the first like seconds. But then the portfolio is like, here's my work. This is a render of my model. We'll also see images of the model. So we get now the project title, the highlights, how it was made in this case with the tools, and then a really kind of short description. I think this is pretty important, and I would probably highlight that again, like looking at where you've been celebrated or exhibited. I think that's important to highlight, especially as recent graduates. If you've had those opportunities, like highlight them, put that in bold, or somehow, she liked her little red outlines, like somehow highlight that. I think those things really matter. And then we have some of the process. I probably wouldn't go with process first. If this page gets included, I would include it a little bit later. Again, don't exhibit a project in the sequence in which it was made, but exhibit the project in order to communicate what it is. And certainly some imagery or process diagrams don't need to be shown. I think this page would be a much better second page than this one, right? Because we're like, this is cool. And then this is like not that graphically. This is too low on the page. It doesn't align with this. It's got weird, it's a little bit too close to the margins over here. I would center it a little. I don't really know what that's doing. These aren't photoshopped well enough. This is a hand sketch. I would adjust the levels on that one. And probably put a frame around it as well, or crop it tighter so that the grid, and just adjust the warp so the grid is kind of perfect. All of those things, it's a little bit fussy, but it makes a difference. This is, I don't know, I'm not going to read this. There are better ways of maybe communicating the sequence of image production. This is probably a better way to do it, just to look at the different forms of iteration through iterative images rather than text describing the iteration. And then this really clear, the drawings are small, but they give us that information. Looks good. And all of this probably would do better to be in front of the diagram page, or I would just delete the diagram page. And then the physical model studies, great. Looking at different forms of a media, oh, where this was presented. And then this, I think, was done in Laura Michelin's seminar. Yes, the generative renders class, and styling different forms of interiors. So here, that kind of form of sequencing, I guess, is helpful. Again, presented certainly very differently to understand the sequences of that form of production. And then here, the output of that sequence. So helpful. I need less explanation, or would want less explanation in a portfolio than just a kind of communication of what was done, as opposed to like the process by which it was done. This kind of comes out of the blue because we're looking at interiors, and then this page, while pretty and part of the same class, I know, is a little bit would benefit from a title. Let's see what's next. It was the page lead-in towards this project. Got it. Not clear. So maybe that's something to think about, like how you differentiate your chapters or projects can be a little bit confusing if not done with clarity. This image, low res, somehow size is wrong. I see that right away. You don't want anybody to notice any of that, so just adjust your images. This page, not gorgeous. I would probably not put this on a black background and reorganize the whole thing to make it cute. And then the sound architecture class, this image I would adjust, Photoshop, make it less gray. And I think the way that you kind of deal with your images is important, especially if they're photographs or model photographs. They're not going to come out right out of the camera. They will need to be Photoshopped. This, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I think one would either make more of process and just give a page to each of these to make, and then to explain what's going on and then give us the output of that process, or somehow work with this page to make it somehow a little bit less up to the edges. I think here the text and everything is a bit too close to margins. Same. The video of this is very pretty. I think in that project, it was better communicated on the website. I think this is, yeah, from her undergrad. So then different kind of work, looking at architectural production in a more familiar sense. Here again, on a dark background, line work's a killer, and text. So pay attention to that. Loading. For whatever reason, this is in a white block, which just means this page wasn't Photoshopped and came from a different portfolio layout potentially. So pay attention to the different whites and the different blacks and make them all clean. But I think overall the portfolio's like communicating the really technical aspects of her work cleanly, clearly. This line weight, on the other hand, is excellent. Nice also to see a kind of construction drawing within the context of the portfolio. Sorry, it's taking forever to load. I would imagine these images are huge because they're really loading slowly. So, looping back to Brent's question, take care of your exports. Okay, there's that one. Let me see if I can find her website. Sorry. It's this one. Yeah, it is. Can you see this? Okay. So her name is Kadambari, but her last name is nowhere that I can find on the website. So I would put your last name on your website. I can either click through to projects or I can scroll down. Now you'll see she has this dot that's following me. Now either it has lag in it or my computer is lagging, but just know that other people looking at your portfolios or websites will similarly have some kind of lag. And I would just remove the dot so that it doesn't become a distraction. Okay, so the website, I think, I don't know if this was Squarespace or who this was. It feels like she took a format already, but it's one that I think has a good, clean design to it. We have what this website is kind of about and what the project's about, and then the kind of highlights. This project showing I can click through to projects and look at them individually, or I can scroll through the majority of the portfolio on the website. Although it is very slow for me. But it is pretty. It's a little bit difficult to know whether I'm moving into different projects because of the kind of scrolling medium. In her case, she is shifting colors for the different projects, and there is a title. But there might be ways to make that a little bit more obvious. Because now I feel like I'm moving into a different chapter project. Yeah, this is just my screen. Anyway, more and more students these days are building their own websites. It's something to think about. There are certainly simpler versions. I think this one's kind of, she's got a lot of really animated media in the portfolio. We can look at, oh yeah, let me Google, hold on a sec. This is an MSAUD portfolio from the entertainment studio he graduated in 2023. Now, I haven't seen anybody do this before. But his link is an Archinect page. You may have seen this before, I have not. Now, the only way to know this is a portfolio is to hover over it, which, I don't know that everybody will hover. Most people do the issue. I think this is actually really clean because we don't have any of the advertising. Issue has so many ads surrounding your work that you have to full screen it to really get out of the ad world. But the portfolio itself as a PDF linked with an Archinect is, I think, pretty great idea. So he's searchable within the Archinect system, but if I search him online, it brings me also to his portfolio via Archinect, and that kind of like always present link is pretty helpful. He has also a lot of animated work, so I'm imagining he's going to be showing some QR codes. Again, CV, really straightforward, not trying to jam in 1,000 words into a one-page CV, and that's really important. We have a little bit of a description of the folio. It's not common. It can be very, very useful, and certainly when we're trying to, Brand is coming back in, when we're trying to maybe fill a page next to our table of contents, that's also a good way to do it, or just use an image. So Ying Hao, even before he came to MSAUD, was doing a lot of visualization work. Then he studied at MSAUD, and then he graduated, and then he went to work for Kilograph, and they're a visualization and branding and kind of media company, and he was working there until last year. So he was with them for 2.5 years, I think. And so this portfolio is not his architectural portfolio. He has a separate one for that. This is where he is right now, what he's doing. He does a lot of visualization for a whole range of companies now that he's left Kilograph and doing it freelance. And this kind of a portfolio is specific to that type of work. I don't even know if he has his student work. Oh yeah, he does have the student work in here. Highlighting really the spaces that were modeled and rendered. There are less screenshots of the film. Some of these shots were not even in his film. But he's really pulling out the kind of interiority of the project and world in line with what he wants to do, which is visualization work. So that portfolio is very, very kind of specific to that job trajectory. And then I think we do have maybe some of his architectural work at the end, although always relative to how it was rendered and visualized. Yeah, no, none of his student portfolio in the kind of more conventional sense. Really, all of the projects visualized and rendered. And then we have Willie Wu, who graduated in 2022. Just to kind of take a break from the PDFs and look at forms of websites that you could be kind of exploring. Willie's projects, he has the kind of big title image, and then I can also go and click projects, and I have all of the works there. You can do it this way without title, and then you get the title when you hover. So at least we know that the information is there. He is outside of academic and professional life. He's also like an expert miniature model maker as a hobby. So he has a lot of that work on the website as well. So if you have kind of cross-disciplinary or affiliated interests and hobbies, like put that in the website, even if it might not find a home in your portfolio, it also just kind of shows a more a greater variety of skills. So this was a seminar with Carol Klein, I think. Oh, Max Kuo, with a kind of series of generated imagery alongside the models. And this is generation in 2022. So imagine what it would be like this year. Again, and then we click through the website, and then it really follows the kind of linear format of moving through the project and project imagery. So we don't need to click on more than that, but we have an about and contacts page. We do have a CV page. So it doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be kind of wild and moving imagery. It can just be simple and clean. Okay, so this is Gestimani, otherwise known as Manya Rumpani. She graduated in 2020. She, when she graduated, she went to work for, why can I not full screen? Okay, Firefoxes. Let me try and open a new tab. Oh, there we go. When she graduated in 2020, she went to work for an architectural practice for maybe half a year or a year, but on the condition that she could do the architecture part for 3 days and set up a sort of visualization arm for 2 days a week. So she did that for about a year while she was applying to the places that she really wanted to go. So from there, she went to Google and she worked in the materials lab at Google. And then she was working in Nike for maybe 2 or 3 years. And just last year moved to New York and now is working at Amazon. So this is the portfolio that she used to apply to Google, if it's going to let me click the pages. I don't know if you can hear my fan, but I can hear my fan. Okay, we're frozen there for a quick second. Maybe I cannot show this one. I will. Ooh. So this is the issue. You see all of the ads. That can be distracting. Okay, here's her CV. She had also worked for a number of years before coming to AUD. So she had job experience as well. Yeah, from 2016 to 2019. And then the portfolio kind of runs through her project work. Similar format that we've seen before. In this case, she has the first page of a project as the big image with the title. And then we go into looking at the kind of details and then some project description. Again, don't feel beholden to add all the text. No one will read it, but in this case, if it were, I don't know, she could make this image larger and it would look good too. So if you're looking at text for density or for some texture, that's fine, but don't feel like you have to provide a lot of text. Really isn't going to be necessary. So this is an MSAUD kind of style portfolio. I have another one I'm going to show, and then we can move back to the MArch ones. This one is very long. So we're at page 45 now. And I'm kind of feeling it. So I think the sweet spot, let's say, it's between 25 to 32, 34 pages. I mean, in this case, she's got 78 pages that are individual pages because it's a little booklet. So I guess it's not much longer than the average. And this is some of the work that she did in Greece before she came to AUD. Somewhere I have her website, but I cannot find it at the moment. Okay, so let's go back to the PDFs. This actually, we can do this website. This is Xinyi Li. She did a double degree. She graduated from the MArch and MSAUD program. Her 3rd year she did with us. And so it's a kind of mix. She has different forms of, let's say, categories for the work. She's doing a lot of film reconstruction at the moment. So she redid this scene from the Budapest Hotel in Unreal Engine, which is pretty impressive. So she has all of those uploaded, loaded up front, and then all of her other kind of media and reels are here. And then if we go to, see, I like having the heading here. I don't like to go back to a drop-down menu. So I would suggest, if you're doing a website like this, keep this heading kind of on every page. So we don't need to go back in order to go forward. Just have it there so we can kind of move categories. And then she has a space category, which is where her architectures are. And this is one is her comprehensive project in second year. And all of that material is single image, or let's say drawing per slide, and I think super effective. I don't remember what her portfolio is. The PDF wasn't working. But I think for looking at the imagery of this project, so this was a render, right? The drawings are really well executed. The model photographs are photoshopped, great lens, like really taking care with photographing the model as though it is a building photographed by a model photographer, right? And that's how you want to kind of really think about cataloging all of your work, like take great care at all times. And then the renders as well, like really trying to make it look like hyper real photography. Super gorge, really beautiful. And then we have our details. So in the architecture section, it kind of follows that same format. All of the works are presented as icons. We roll over, we have the information. I think it's a very straightforward format that you can adopt. But again, now I want to go to the next section, but the tab isn't here. So just thinking about all of those. So then in the about me and the photography. So that's a pretty useful website example. Let's see. We have Audrey Wiley. I think, if I remember correctly, yeah. So are you in third year? Are you still here? Second or third year?
She was an undergrad.
She was an undergrad?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so looking at a portfolio used to apply to grad school. Again, the kind of UCLA format. It's got a real vibe. I'm going to quickly look for my. Where's my finder? I did a little demonstration of photoshopping some images for you. Let me find those real quick. Because portfolios. Okay, here we go. Okay, let me get to the page. All right, so it's a really nice format. The portfolio is really, elegant, clean, clear. This is great to do. It highlights who the collaborators were. I do notice we have this font, and this font. Each font is doing something different in terms of the kind of information it's conveying. But I think that could also be done with like either just normal or regular bold italics or whichever direction, or through different sizes. And the drawings are here again, like keeping text to a minimum. I will say actually, generally, when we read text, we don't want to kind of like move our eyeballs too far over. So it's probably more helpful to keep the text blocks kind of narrower and have a column between, a gutter between, and have two text chunks there, rather than having a long block, just because we don't tend to want to kind of read while having to move our heads. Okay, line work, super, super clear. So as a kind of portfolio coming out from undergrad into a grad school application, all the information that's here is really well represented. I think we're getting, here we go. Here's the model photograph. Okay, so I screenshot this the other day, and this, oops, this is this image. And so getting back to model Photoshop, like photography photoshopping. So this was the image naked from the screenshot. This was me just doing a very quick auto levels, which already improves it. Can you tell? Can you even tell? Is the image quality kind of original, slightly adjusted? This is then, oh goodness. Oh, just closed it. Let me do that again, just to make a point. To Photoshop your images ever so slightly. Okay, here's the original. Here's auto levels, super minimal adjustments. Goodness. And here is spending, I don't know, 10 seconds adjusting it, right? And so the white balance is a little bit better. I really just did levels. I did brightness, contrast, saturation. I might have just taken yellow or red out. I mean, it wasn't more than, I couldn't have been more than 30 seconds. So I think spending a little bit of time to Photoshop your images will have a lot of impact. This is like very yellow. It's a little bit dark. Just boosting it, or here adding a bit of contrast and taking away some of the saturation, or here now it starts to look like basswood or balsa wood, rather than like a very yellow nighttime shot. Again, that's seconds of editing. So with a little bit of time, you can do it, get it to look like masterpieces. So those would be the only comments with this portfolio. I think the kind of layout is informative, communicative. I think the drawings are really, really clear. Model photographs, good. Here again, adjusting these and removing that kind of yellow brown and getting them to look as though they're photographed on a white surface, which they are, would do a lot. These then, or kind of go this route and turn them black and white, and you really kind of capture the light and the shadow, also a really effective way to go. This is a nice, short, sharp portfolio. I've seen a few of the undergrad portfolios as well with the summer projects from the seminar. The models are really, really lovely. You could probably move those even earlier into the portfolio. Sometimes don't feel like because it's a seminar that it doesn't deserve, let's say, I don't know, earlier placement in your portfolio. Because some of the seminar works that you all are doing are really spectacular. So really go through your portfolios and think about what's the best, and just sequence it, not necessarily reverse chronology, but just like best, and then swing back up towards the end with another little highlight. Anybody have any questions or comments or thoughts? Oh, this is cool. And then she also started building this in 2020. I designed and built this she shed over a couple of quarantine summer breaks. And then she's really honest. I really love this. Having little experience with design and construction, I was motivated only by my desire to have my own bedroom. I drew up the plans, researched building codes, and built a simple dwelling unit. Space is a continual work in my progress as I learn and improve my construction skills at my own pace. Like, it's super cool. Like, just including something like that is great if you have it. This process let me experience the physical realities of creating a space, developing my skills in carpentry and construction, and spark my passion for architecture. Like, that is cool and fun. So yeah, if you have things like this that are personal explorations that are material and built, include them. Yeah, any questions? I do have, let's say, some CVs. Another resume. The layout is good. The use of color and bolding, honestly, like a lot of people like to write a lot of descriptive sentences after each thing, like, here are all the 14 million things I did at this place. I think this is enough. The font for the sort of sub information is small, so it doesn't fill the page too much, but it's also, so he was at Wuhan, which is a great school, honored as best student in final year, honored as first class outstanding student, won the Longhua Enterprise Scholarship. Great, highlight all of that stuff up front. You can also then come back to it in the portfolio, but, throw all of your awards. And even if it's redundant, I don't know if he puts them here down at the bottom, as well. Maybe not, but if he put all of the awards, he would have a lot. So foreground that information. His portfolio is pretty funny. He kind of does it as a magazine cover because he has an issue. Probably want to do like issue whatever it is. And the CV comes as the first page. And then we have our contents on the other side. I think this is from undergrad. Yes. Interestingly, like he has a header and he has his name top left in pink on every single page. Just so you never forget who he is. He also reformats a lot of the drawings that were clearly in black and white and reformats them to match the sort of aesthetic of the portfolio.
Natasha, good question from Annabelle in the chat. Would you recommend including current work that's unfinished in the portfolio? And maybe I can add to that question. In that case, how's an elegant way or a quick way to signal that this is work in progress?
Work in progress.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes. Yeah, for sure include it. But I wouldn't include it if you feel like you need to include process or all the kind of messy in progress work. I mean, a lot of people have great imagery for work or like drawings and models and for work in progress and absolutely include it. But if you're working in reverse chronological order, you don't need to include it first if you have better, more completed work. Then I would just put it somewhere in the middle or maybe the second project work in progress. Yeah, absolutely. You're designing your portfolio, you're communicating what you're working on, and if it represents you and it's interesting work to you and you want to talk about it, that's really what a lot of the interviews are about. Is often they'll ask, like, what is your favorite kind of piece in this portfolio? And they're not expecting you to pick the best thing, but usually it's the thing you've learned the most from. Or maybe that's something as an interview, if you're feeling like they don't have a question for you and they say, and then there's an awkward lull in conversation, which can happen. You could say, you know what, like, can I just talk through something in my portfolio? I learned so much from this. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Or, think about ways you can kind of build a conversation, and maybe work in progress would be a good way. Like, I'm currently working on this. Do you have any thoughts and feedback? Okay, so this is professional practice work. Does that answer your question? Okay, then we have professional work. Here it was internship, practice project, and he has here role. And this is what I meant when you're in an office. What is your role? Facade design, detailing, and rendering as part of a team. So I think that's just really useful to know, because a lot of people will put like, I was at Foster's office and I did this huge airport all by myself. It's just understanding what the role was. If you built a portion of the physical model, or we're working on the foundation package, or whatever it is.
Ben has a good follow-up question there. What about other works to include that are not architecture? And I think, not to get ahead of that, I think Hunter's portfolio that we saw first is a really great example of how craft and material and other skills are shown through a non-architecture, so to speak, portfolio. But Natasha, what's some guidance on that question?
Well, I think also it depends on where you are applying, right? If you're applying to like a real straightforward architectural office, then you can include that work towards the end. Like if it's photography, I think the portfolio that we saw from the student who came from England, what was his name? Pearson Brown. His photography work and the exhibition was really beautifully presented, right? Like think about how you're framing that other work. Like I really enjoyed the student we saw before and her pavilion or her bedroom that she built. I think that's great to include. I wouldn't put it up front because you also want to kind of think about who is looking at your portfolio. Unless you're applying to a place where you will be doing a lot of building, then definitely put that up front. What about other works? Can we include some works that are not architecture? Yeah, okay. Yeah, think about all of the other kind of pursuits and frame them as as that. So maybe in your table of contents, it has like all your architectural projects, and then you have other media or cross-disciplinary work, or what's a way to kind of frame that so we know when we enter that section that there are other interests and pursuits. But again, if it relates or if it's going to help you, think about always the audience and whether it's relevant to include in every kind of application you're sending out. It might not be. So I would look at that as an audience-specific thing. And again, just moving through the portfolio, I think there's a really good balance of kind of like detailed Excel render and drawings and well exported line work and sketching and physical models. And then like what I think is important to do is always have that sort of like, if we've had a few pages, which I think we've had here, of smaller things, then it's like, here's a big image. Let me give you a break. You can just look at this. And then we go back to thinking about the next project and looking at all the kind of other media associated with the next work. I feel like either we're going to switch projects next or we're going to get a great big image. This is pretty good. I would probably have made that a little bit bigger. There's a lot of information on this page. It's kind of condensed. So yeah. And then these are media projects from MSAUD mixed in with some other works. And he does a lot of kind of film work. I know he's working at architectural practice right now, but he does a lot of social media and film for, I don't know, he's starting his own company doing that on the side. Any requests? I have this person, Moto, is working at Sharif Lynch. And I believe this was the portfolio that he used to apply. I find this number a little intimidating, that it's 104 pages. Okay, Conrad says, thanks for this. When do you think a CV resume is necessary at the start of a portfolio? If they're asking for a separate CV, do you still recommend we include a CV in the portfolio? I don't think you need to. If the CV is separate, keep it separate. You could also make it the last page. If you can have one PDF that you send to offices that want everything bundled in one, or you just have a couple of different exports and you have the CV going one way and the portfolio the other. I don't think it's necessary. Some people include it. This one does not. That's a lot of text. Who's reading that? Well, yes. We have the important info, the text, and then a little bit of caption. But again, this portfolio already told me that it's 104 pages long. That's way too long. But we do have some good highlight pages. And this is very different. So I guess this is going to be the thing that we look at that marks our new chapter or new projects. I think some of these images are a little small. I would probably not have this because they're too small to know what they are, and enlarge this. Yeah, there's probably too much text on the page and would give more weight to the imagery. Like this size is a little bit better. Again, a lot of text. I mean, it's not really that much, but we're not going to read it. Also, I think it's a little bit too kind of close to the edge. I would have a larger margin, so it feels like it's a little bit more condensed. I'd probably space it 1.5 instead of double, just so it looks a little bit more compact, and not like such an intimidating amount of text. The imagery is good. The model, like the, let's say, renders. Are good and useful. But I think probably we could do with a bit of editing on this portfolio because it does feel like it's quite long. But then images like this are really cool. So I would probably, like in this one, get rid of the text and then zoom in so we really are just looking at this thing and kind of fill the whole page with it. I can also end anytime. I realize it's 6:16. I just figure some of you might want to see as many portfolios as possible. So I'm flipping through what I have, but we can also just end.
Thanks. And Jacob has a good question. For applying to internships, do you think it's necessary to present every project as a
Not
whole?
no.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm pretty sure I like said that 14 million times today. Yeah, I mean, yeah, don't show everything. Show, like, we saw one project, one portfolio, I can't remember now who it was, where there was a page where there was an elevation and there were 3 sections. Actually, one elevation and one of the sections would have been great. Are we really, like, we're not looking where the bathrooms are and if the stairs connect from floor to floor, like, nobody's looking at hyper detail. We're really just kind of trying to get a sense of, what interest the person has, how they present themselves, what the kind of work is like. I don't remember this portfolio. Looked at it. Oh, it's a little bit slow. Let's try and maybe this can be an example. Okay, stuck. Okay, issue can freeze a fair bit. So okay, let's look at this one instead. This is in Adobe. I believe this was also an undergrad student or a current student. And if you are here, please let me know. Okay, so this is on a black background, which I have not recommended, only because you have to take such care with your line weight and your lettering so that the black doesn't overwhelm and that the size is right and that it's clean and legible. Dark backgrounds can make that legibility a challenge, but this is legible. So yay, and look at this, super legible. Not to kind of go on and on about it, but I have seen many black portfolios that do not have success. So these are a little bit hard to read though. And it might be because here they're on a white background, so that contrast is a little too much. But I think, we went a little while kind of during COVID, not seeing a whole lot of physical models just because everyone was working at home. And it's so nice now to see photographs of physical models again. So if you do have them, really photograph the heck out of them. Like this is a beautiful shot. Does it tell me a whole lot? No, but it's really pretty, right? It gives like a good interiority. It has interesting materiality. It's got great composition, good lighting. Also because it was then turned in black and white, so we don't have that kind of color correction that we need to do. Again, the model photos, super nice and contrasty, both in black and white. So just take care with your imagery, the drawings, like it's a clear portfolio. It's also nice to see one every now and then in a black background, just to kind of see what the difference is, right? And how the legibility or the kind of qualities change. Yeah, I've seen a few of these, like, I don't know what is this image type called? Anybody know? I like it. So is this professional work then? Professional interior design internship. Here she lists the software used, renderings and floor plans of houses, both in construction or remodeling in various parts of Guatemala, created the rendering images for clients involved, etc. So again, describes what work was done and what the contribution was. So this is undergrad tech seminar. So interestingly, there was a professional project in between academic projects. As long as you make it really, really clear, I'm not sure it was clear enough. I would probably put academic projects in one chunk and then professional in another, or have some like very legible code on your first page that makes it clear what it is. Most people are expecting, if you've been in practice for a number of years, you would then only have professional work. And if you've had experience for a couple of years, you probably foreground your professional work first and then your academic work. But usually that separation is pretty common and expected. So here we have undergrad studio. Again, probably photographed in the same session as all of the other, because I think I have 3 or 4 portfolios with the photographs that all look like this. I'm imagining they all kind of did it together in the same room with the same camera and the same lighting, because they all have that sort of yellowness. So I would just adjust. Yeah, like the layout is super good. We have this like very beautiful model photograph, and then these here with the kind of description, it looks good. It looks good. Foregrounding model photographs. I mean, honestly, everybody loves a model. And everybody loves like a really detailed drawing. So give those space. Pretty nice to end with, right? A good conclusion. You could also just do one of these full spread and just have a like great ending. Are we done? Do we want more? I can carry on. How many people are still here?
Well, we still got a solid couple dozen.
Yeah, but they might all be eating dinner and the computer's just on.
I just did that 10 minutes ago. Uh,
That section, can we just show us that?
is there, does anyone, there's been some really great questions in the chat. Is there any interest in any sort of, while the opportunity's here, a conversation or just any unpacking any of this? Because I know Natasha's given us 2 hours almost worth of content and some insights along the way. But you know, this is a good dress rehearsal moment before the portfolio workshop, which it's not like high stakes, but this is a good candid moment to have an opportunity among peers, among a friendly audience to interrogate, to think out loud. So take advantage of that. No pressure. Natasha, are there any like extremes that we haven't seen yet or haven't discussed yet or worth noting?
I kind of deleted one of the extreme. Well, no, one of the extremes was an issue and didn't open anymore. I think it was deleted. I'm trying to load this one. I like the portfolio, but it is a wide portfolio, so it lets you see again. Because we used to have one that was a super wide. It was crazy. It took exactly like a third of the screen. But that one on issue is no longer available. This one still struggling to load. Finish that. I'm going to close that one down to try and give my computer some breathing space. Okay, let me just kill that on this. This was an MArch student, Mavis, who graduated in 2022, if it loads. Ooh, did it just load? Okay. So this is the single page ratio. So the double page is wide. It's nice. You just want to always like design, if you're going to be exporting as spreads, I really would design the spread as a single page. So even if it's flipping, it's designed as one screen, right? Because that's how it's going to be looked at. In this case, it doesn't really matter because this one is the, so this is CV and this is contents. I kind of thought it was the whole CV altogether. I probably wouldn't do CV and contents and then start the page here. I would just start on the next page so that you have a kind of clean break. But the imagery and the material is super well represented. It's just because it's a spread, everything becomes quite small. Like this would be great if we could just, you know, okay, I was trying to zoom in to make an example, but if we could see the work in greater detail, I would love to see this image. It's really pretty, right? But because it's laid out in this wide format and considered as two facing pages, it makes it difficult to see the detail. On the other hand, like the whole texture of all the stuff is good and clear. And it proceeds to do that on every single page. Like, but this is great. Would love to see it larger. So is this. These are great. They're like really great images. The renders are good. This must be a comprehensive project. It has that feel. Landscape Studio, huh? Oh, that's this one. Okay, I would recommend, don't finish one project on the left and then start another project on the right. You just want to avoid all confusion. I'm easily confused by slightly unintelligible portfolios. This one is clear, but I think this like marrying of two different projects together doesn't work well enough. So I would just finish this on the previous page and then start your new project. So you're always designing as a facing page. Having said that, the content's great. Look at this drawing, super good. I would maybe be interested in rotating that and just doing it for the full spread to just give it that space so we can look at it. And then with Yulia's studio last year, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You know, looking at going through the material research, in this kind of a format, I think the sort of smaller images works well because there's a lot of iteration and you can see difference in each one. And then we see the elevations and then the model photograph really well. Again, it's really dense. A lot of it would benefit from just having a bit of space. But I do like that the portfolio is relatively compact. So yeah, like here again, we have like this project is blue and green and this one's yellow and pink. You know, you just want the pages to match. But otherwise it's great. And then we have the professional works, also really dense on the page. Here says involved in facade details, interior design, lighting design. I would love to know where this was, what office or what studio, or if it's independent work. It looks like, because it says involved in physical facade model making, it looks like it's at an office, but that would benefit from some clarity. Otherwise, yeah, it's a fun, different one, like different kind of aesthetic. I think it would just benefit from being looked at on a really huge, wide monitor, which I don't have. That's pretty. So this is pretty, this thing. I might move it a little bit more forward because it's a great model photo and it's very different. In this case, I don't think they had that many model photographs or didn't give enough space to them so that when you finally see one towards the end of the folio, it's kind of like, ooh, that's pretty. So think about balance as you're kind of doing all of these. But there's a lot of variety in the portfolio, super thorough. I know Mavis was a great student and the portfolio's, you know, super high quality and nicely different. I think we can end it.